Hey folks, and welcome to part 2 of how to install a 6.0 Powerstroke transmission cooler in your 97 or old body style Ford F350, F250 truck with a 7.3 Powerstroke diesel. Now you might be wondering why in the world this is a second part. Well, this is actually more of just a follow-up video. I recently just had to replace my radiator, and it was because of my 6.0 transmission cooler that I installed in this truck. And I want to pass on this little tidbit of information to you guys in case you've done the same thing. So I just got the radiator hopefully all installed. I went ahead and got this Mishimoto. We'll see how it holds up. I'm kind of trying to get higher quality parts here. But the main thing I wanted to focus on was the 6.0 transmission cooler, which you can see I've got the lines for it down here and everything. Now what ended up happening was this 6.0 transmission cooler actually caused my previous radiator to wear out and to actually get a hole inside of it. And let me go ahead and put the camera up here so you guys can see. But in my particular design, there's a very tight clearance. You can see the brown, kind of discolored, the oldest looking part in there is actually my transmission cooler. And that's because I pulled it out of a junkyard. Probably wasn't the smartest idea. Now, luckily, the transmission I got it from wasn't destroyed, and it didn't destroy my transmission as well. But anyways, you can see there's a very tight clearance. And what ended up happening was I actually had contact between this cooler and my radiator before I, changed things around here just a moment ago. But what ended up happening was it wore a hole through my radiator. So here we are looking at my old radiator, and you can see right down here is where it actually wore a hole inside of it. It's pretty nasty. You look at that. And that was actually from the lower bracket on the transmission cooler actually rubbing into that. And it didn't cause an issue immediately. In fact, I ran this thing like that for probably about 2 years, and it didn't have to give me any bit of trouble. And I was kind of disappointed because this was basically a brand new radiator I installed. It's only actually a couple years old, but unfortunately it's trash now. And you can also see up here where there's more contact that the transmission cooler made with the radiator. And you can see it almost started rubbing through right up here. So in my revised design, what I ended up doing was I made a couple of spacers, and I basically shifted up that transmission cooler back a little bit, and that helps to make sure that we're not getting any contact between the two parts. And I've got it to where I can't see anything. I don't know if you can see in there. It's really a tight squeeze, but there really isn't any contact between the radiator and the 6.0 cooler. I'm sure at some point down the road they'll make contact, but at least they're not in immediate contact right now, so that any ambient vibrations from the truck won't naturally cause the thing to rub through. Yeah, if you take a look here, these are actually the old brackets that I cut off. That's why I got the old Sawzall out. I had to use that to cut off these brackets. I figured that was the best way to make sure that these wouldn't cause problems again. I might hold on to this one as a souvenir. You can see clearly this is the culprit that caused my radiator to wear out. And you can see the indents from where it was rubbing. Kind of cool. Unfortunately, it caused failure of my radiator. Now with that, I think we can take this lesson and expand upon it a little bit more and look at every other little part here in the truck. And this is one of the things that, if you're adding on performance parts like this 6.0 cooler it's a performance part, let's face it. But the thing about it is it really shows us that you got to be careful when you're routing things. So for example, I can tell right here from my redneck intercooler that this thing's actually rubbing against this hose. It hadn't worn through yet, and it probably won't cause a problem for a long amount of time, and it's easy enough to get to, but nonetheless there's a lot of wires and whatnot all through here that are just as susceptible of wearing out. And that's why from the factory you see so much that the wiring harnesses are all tied back quite nicely, and they have all these protective looms on them to make sure that they don't rub through and cause some sort of short or something like that. And so I would recommend, maybe going through your truck, take a look at things. If you've got loose wires, you might want to tie them back with some cable ties or something like that and try to eliminate any rat's nest. Well, that pretty much does it. I hope this helps you guys out, and hopefully you don't have the same issue that I did, and you can be preventative about it rather than having to repair it after the fact. Thanks for watching, folks, and take care.